Welcome to Season 4 of the Armchair Athletes on CMRU.ca.
We're here to talk to 4 major American sports leagues. Your favorite sports show on CMRU.ca.
With Clayton.
Give me a break. You guys have proven nothing.
Taylor. Like, if you ever want to get rid of him, you're never going to get anything for him.
Terrell.
Every team plays at that stadium. The Orioles have to hit to the same wall, too.
And Will.
Every week, there's a new report that's like, Miami is the top suitor for Damian Lillard.
Alrighty, welcome to a brand new episode of the Armchair Athletes with Clayton.
Terrell.
Taylor. And Will.
Got the full crew on today. Let's go. I got to run the gauntlet here before we begin. I forgot to last week, so I'm going to do it twice on today's show. I'll do one later as well. So I guess to start off, we've got Instagram at the Armchair Athletes, TikTok at Armchair Athletes. There's no the. Twitter X at Chair Athletes. Terrell, anything from the Twitter this past week? Been a lot of insane games in sports, so I'm sure there's had to be something.
It's been a lot of watching basketball from my end. Not tapped into hockey as much, but yeah, the NBA playoffs so far have been about as good as you could possibly hope. So yeah.
And then YouTube at the Armchair Athletes 196. 196, there's like 196 reasons why I shouldn't be a politician, but one of them is because I'd have to support the local teams. And I'm not capable of doing that. Man, if I were the Alberta Premier, I'd be like, go Vegas.
Very true.
Another one as well, I started a social media, if y'all, because I know that anyone who listens to this show, if they listen to me talk wrestling, they're probably like, oh, I wonder what kind of matches Clayton Yates considers to be 5-star matches. Well, you can go find that now on an app called Dropkicked. It's also at Armchair Athletes, same as the TikTok, which y'all should know by now after months upon months of talking about it. And yeah, you can go find my list that I put on there called matches that I consider 5 stars. Got one follower, but it all starts with one, right? So
Got to pump those numbers up.
Yeah.
Drop kicked?
Yeah, drop kicked, spelled drop kick, and then a D at the end, no E. But yeah, if y'all really care to go on there, that's okay. I don't know if it'll be a regular part of the gauntlet or not, but
here we go.
Yeah. But anyways, I guess we'll just jump right in and let's start off with the NBA. Terrell, you had talked that you were watching some of the games from this past week, some important games too. The Nuggets won a Game 7. The Warriors won a Game 7. Where do you want to start?
I think we got to start with the Rockets. That's the game, or I guess Warriors-Rockets. That's the game that was maybe the most disappointing of the two. I know that we all, or at least the three of us, had the Warriors for our brackets to move on, but by the end of that series, I was kind of hoping that I was going to be incorrect at the very least. I would not have minded seeing Houston move on over Golden State after the antics of Draymond Green. And he really kept it going in that game, man. I don't know if you guys watched him, but he, punched Fred VanVleet on a foul. Now, granted, it probably should have been called on VanVleet, but Draymond, man, he does not help his case whatsoever.
Where do you have Draymond Green ranked on Dropkicked, Clayton?
Well, he's never had a wrestling match, so he's not on the list.
Well, that could be debated. It depends on who you ask. Rudy Gobert would maybe make that argument against you.
That's true. Maybe we'll get a 5-star match out of Rudy Gobert and Draymond Green in round 2 some point.
It would not shock me.
Do you think Draymond forgot about Rudy elbowing LeBron in the head? I don't think so.
I think that's been replaying in his mind since it happened. He's been waiting for his moment to come back. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, there were actually positives to take away from this game. Buddy Hield had magnet ball going. He was 12 of 15 and 9 of 11 from 3. Just felt like he couldn't miss the entire game. And then from the Rocket side of things, it was a good game from Amen Thompson. Jalen Green, though, I think it's about time to get ready to send him out somewhere else. Whatever you can get for him, I think at this point you got to take it because he has not lived up to expectations at all. And really, aside from the one game in this playoff series. Incredibly disappointing. So if they can get anything of value for him, I think they have to take it. Because, just a very disappointing series from him overall. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on that Rockets-Warriors Game 7, but
No.
in that case, move on to the other Game 7 you mentioned, Nuggets-Clippers. Taylor, you were probably very excited. Russell Westbrook was out there cooking. James Harden was doing the exact opposite. But I'll let you talk about Russell Westbrook because that's your guy right there.
Hey, that's why he's that good. I know he gets a lot of hate. I know he's not as good as he used to be. I fully agree on that notion. But hey, when he shows up, he's like a huge piece for Denver. And I think one of the reasons why they might be even in the second round, especially with some of the games he had this series, as we've seen in the past where the Nuggets get knocked out, it's usually just because Jokic is kind of trying to do everything by himself. And the more help he can get, the better. And there is points where I see Jamal Murray kind of cool off and maybe not play to his best. And usually if that happens, they're kind of toast. But Westbrook coming off the bench has been really good since he's basically played for the Nuggets for the most part. So I think he's still good, and I think he's still worth having on the team. So hopefully, the Nuggets see his value for what it is and keep him around. But yeah, I think he's played really well this playoff so far. It's exciting to see.
He's been great. Go ahead.
That dunk at the end of Game 7 against the Clippers was amazing. I loved it.
That's Westbrook for you, for sure.
I loved purposefully getting the tech just so he could stop the game and hype up the crowd a bit more afterwards. It was a solid move.
He's been shooting the ball a lot better too.
I got some numbers here for you. So first of all, talking about shooting, he shot 41.9% from three this series, which is the best mark he's ever hit in a playoff series. And he's shooting 38.9% overall in the playoffs after this game against the Thunder. That's his second best mark in the playoffs since the 2009 and 10 season, where he attempted 2 a game and was hitting at 42%. And he's attempting just over 5 so far this playoffs. And he's the first player ever since Manu Ginobili in 2007 to record 16, 5, 5, and 5 with steals off the bench in a playoff game. So pretty elite company for Russell Westbrook there. He's been fantastic. He's been exactly what the Nuggets needed. On the other side of that, James Harden has been the exact opposite of what the Clippers needed. He was horrific in that game. And then in Game 7 since 2020, he's averaging 13.8 on 27.5 from the field, 16.7 from 3, and that's in 42 minutes played. Just brutal from James Harden, especially for a guy that has the reputation of a playoff choker. He is not helping his case whatsoever. And then, Will, the last time you were on the show, we were all hyping up Kawhi Leonard's performance in Game 2, and then he didn't really replicate that at all throughout the rest of the series. So that was kind of disappointing to see as well. But, really it came down to the Russell Westbrook experience, and then Aaron Gordon, who's been fantastic for Denver throughout the entirety of this playoffs. But, I thought it was a great Game 7. Those are 2 fantastic Game 7s. I've been talking for a long time, so if anyone else wants to take the lead on the next little part, go right ahead.
Yeah, I guess
go ahead.
Moving on from first round into the second, we've got 4 games, or I guess, 4 teams, 4 road teams won in Game 1 of round 2, which is pretty exciting. The most recent one, I guess, being Golden State in kind of a bit of a snoozer of a game. Had a bad game from Minnesota, especially Anthony Edwards in the first half. Went 0 for. On the other side, though, Steph Curry left the ball game in the second quarter and looks as though he's day-to-day, perhaps going to miss a game, maybe 2 here, is what I think Steve Kerr said. So tough soak for the Warriors, but I mean, the other guys got it done last night.
That game, man, it was brutal.
Bad game. Holy smokes. I thought they were never going to score. I thought they were never going to hit a 3.
It was
horrible.
The Wolves put up 31 points in the first half. Like
First quarter was like 20-16.
20 to
It was pretty
18,
bad.
and then
20-18, yeah.
the Wolves put up 11 in the second quarter. So
I stopped watching after the first quarter to take a look at my phone to see if it was like going to stay close. And then it was like 25 at half. And then I checked in the fourth quarter and I was like, this is just bad. So I just kind of gave up.
I tuned out of the game. I watched some paint dry. I watched some grass grow a bit.
I don't know if this is just me. Maybe you guys think the same thing. My tolerance for bad sporting games is out the window. When I was a kid, I used to be like, I'm going to stick it through. I'm going to watch it no matter how bad it is. Now I'm just like, turning into my dad, just turn the TV off, switch to a movie, do something like that. It's been bad. Like, I don't know. I feel like I lose interest way quicker if the game is bad, which is probably a bad thing, especially with the way the playoffs have gone for the majority of the part in the other games, which we'll probably get to one of them in a second, but I'm bad with that.
I always keep it on in hockey because I'm always like, oh, I wonder if there'll be like fights at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might check in the
Green.
last couple minutes kind of thing. Like, keep scoreboard watching for sure. But like sitting there when like you might as well close your eyes when you're shooting threes if you're the Timberwolves is not exciting to me. So I just kind of – the Celtics had a game earlier and game 5 might have been or something like that. They shot like 22% from three in the first series, I think. Just horrible. And with the volume of three-point shooting now, it looks even worse than when it did back in the day when the whole team was shooting maybe 15 threes and now they're shooting 55 threes in the game. And if you make like 6, it just looks horrible. So, yeah.
But I will say it's horrible when your own team is like getting blown out. It's like you're just kind of sitting. I can't do it with the Seahawks. I can't watch them in like a blowout game if they're losing. But if they're blowing the other team out, oh man, I'm hooting and hollering at the TV.
When does that ever happen?
Yeah,
it happens.
Once we get the Sam Darnold cooking in Seattle, it's going to happen every week, buddy.
It has happened once.
One time in a very big game, perhaps the most important one.
Yeah,
that's true.
But yeah, I mean, talking about the Wolves, 12 of 76 from 3 over their past 2 games. Just really not the numbers you want to see. I think they hit 5 threes last night. Like you said, Anthony Edwards didn't hit a shot. He hit a free throw. He had 1 point in the first half, so that's pretty good. I thought he put up a goose egg, but no, he put up a singular point. So shout out to him. And then it was just like nothing else could get going. When Ant is hot from 3, the reason I kept this game on is I was like, all it would take is really like 1 or 2 to maybe get him going. And those 2 just never really came. It was just, it was a snoozer all the way through. And then when it's like, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was saying, I heard it was Brian Anderson last night, right? Who's calling the game, wasn't it? I don't know. Yeah. One of the announcers were talking about how that Minnesota was in the top 5 for 3-point percentage, I'm pretty sure, the top 10 in the league all year. You have fooled me there because they just looked horrible. But I mean, I guess if they get hot, they do have guys that can't score the ball from out there. And I mean, you're never winning a game with Ant playing that horribly. I'm sorry to say. They don't have as many secondary stars, I find, on their team maybe, that are like, I'll take the Ant volume of shots and points. It's more like everybody has to have 15 points if Ant's not playing well, and they all didn't play well, so it's kind of just towel toss. Honestly, for it to be only a 12-point game, a lot of people might think that 11-point game, that people might have thought it might have been a lot closer. It was bad.
Yeah. Like, I think if you are Minnesota, you can take away that, like, we shot that garbage and we only lost by 11 points. Maybe not the worst feeling in the world. But then when you're getting, I mean, at least it came early in the game. You were getting Draymond Green, like, he was 4 for 5 from 3 in the second quarter. Like, that's got to be demoralizing. If you're Anthony Edwards, a guy who talks trash, and you have 1 point in the first half and Draymond Green's hitting threes in your face, it's like hard to talk at that point. Yeah, so that was a bit of a snoozer, game 1. However, this Pacers team out east, exact opposite of snoozer throughout the first 2 games.
I will say this last game, though, was a snoozer until they started coming back in the fourth. I had it on. I was watching. It was like a 20-point game. Went to cook dinner. Kind of zoned out from the TV. I looked back, and it was like a 5-point game. And from that point on, it was like one of the best basketball games you could watch. I mean, that ending was like as perfect as you can have an ending for the Pacers and as chaotic as it could have been for the Cavs.
It was disastrous. Like I think that like really it all fell apart. That Donovan Mitchell offensive foul, the elbow to the face. After that, it was like this could all come apart so fast, and then everything just kept declining and getting worse. But like not being able to get a rebound on a free throw, and then Halliburton being the one to secure it, and then after he gets that ball back, and you see it's Ty Jerome out on the perimeter guarding him, it's like just didn't. The vibes were off on that possession for sure, and then it was like just ridiculous from Halliburton. He's been so good this playoffs and so good throughout the season. Clayton, you have the next point here. It's fair enough. Donovan Mitchell was trying to get the crowd to quiet down, but they just weren't listening.
Yeah, I wrote down that people, whether it's players or fans, because players I think it was the start of the playoffs, there was that poll from The Athletic that came out where Halliburton was voted the most overrated. He delivered in that first round after it was released, and now the fans are chanting overrated at him. Well, you see how that ended yesterday. He hits the game-winning shot, has quite the celebration to taunt the crowd, as he should.
Big balls.
Big balls.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. Like, you need to stop at this point, I think, because all you're doing, or just not. I wrote down maybe just don't, because for the rest of the fans around the league, this is getting pretty entertaining to watch, the basketball that Halliburton's been playing over the last 2 rounds, and would be pretty fun to see it continue because he is balling out over these last 2 rounds, guys.
Did you see
Sacramento's kicking themselves? I can guarantee it.
Yeah, I agree.
Tweet?
What'd you
His
say?
tweet?
Did you see Tyrese Halliburton's tweet?
No.
Okay, this is a quote, and we're online. So Tyrese Halliburton tweeted, "Overrate that, you bitch-ass Cavs fans."
That's so good, man.
That is fire.
I can't remember who the tweet was from, but I saw it, and it was the guy that said, "I think the overrated award is just the guy that's the most annoying when he is like playing well against you." And if that's the case, I think Halliburton's got that award locked up for like the next at least few seasons. But if you guys had to go ahead.
I guess if anything, I should know about this, but if I'm able to, I am going to bet for Tyrese Halliburton to appear on WWE if they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals or later in the playoffs. I don't know if you guys. He's appeared on WWE a couple times over the last year, but I think he would be a guy that would do it in the playoffs, because years ago when the Bulls were in the finals, I think it was 98, Rodman appeared on WCW television. It's a part of The Last Dance. I'm sure you've heard about that, so go check that out. I don't think it needs me promoting the documentary, but go do it anyways. I could see Halliburton doing that just because like he wants to be kind of in that same. I could see it.
The rematch with Brunson.
Yeah,
Ooh.
especially if they go up against the Knicks. Like I could see them both appearing at the same time. I could see it happening.
I wish, but I feel like GMs and players are way too worried about anything happening ever nowadays. That it's kind of tough. I could see it post playoffs for sure, but
I don't think they'll do like any moves, but like even just like he jumps
Just
the
a-
barricade and gets thrown out from ringside.
a bitch slap right at center.
Yeah, like,
and then just that's it.
Yeah, that's exactly like I.
Yeah,
could see
that's fair.
something.
Yeah, that'd be kind of sick.
I was gonna say, if you guys had to guess what he's shooting on shots to tie or lead in the last 2 minutes of the game this season, what would you guess?
10 of 11.
I
we're
assume
doing
you
that
saw
kind of
this.
number?
Yeah, well, I mean, Will got it right off.
Oh.
Right off the bat.
I was going to say
90
70. I was going to say percentage wise, but
I mean, hey, whatever you said, it probably would have been too low because he's shooting 91%.
yeah, I would have said 75. So
Insane.
He's missed one all year. It's just ridiculous. And then
And I think the one was just like a stupid, like one-footed leaping forward three.
I mean, probably like the
Yeah.
one that he hit against Milwaukee to end the year was the one that was like where he was fading away and like sideways on the baseline, just ridiculous. He's so good, man. But another guy we got to highlight here, our Canadian, Andrew Nembhard, in that first game was also lighting them up. He's had 0 games of 3 or more threes in the regular season, and then since in the playoffs, he has had 4 in the first 7 games for the Pacers. So he just turns it up to another level in the playoffs. I can understand why Boston fans just hate the Pacers now, because it's like they seem to just have at least 1 or 2 guys every game who will randomly go off. Mathurin played well in this last game. Turner played really well as well. Just a frustrating team to play against. And then obviously Halliburton runs his offense as good as anyone possibly could. So I don't know, man. Yeah, this Pacers team, they're fun to watch. One last stat for the Pacers. They've won 2 games when trailing by 7 or more in the final minute and a half this playoff run. The rest of the league ever is 1 in 384. The only other team to win a game in that time is the Thunder against the Clippers in 2014. So pretty elite stuff from them. And then obviously I think we have to highlight Donovan Mitchell, who put up 48 despite the loss. Sucks, but I mean, he was pretty much the only guy out there for the Cavs with injuries to Hunter, Garland, and Mobley. So did all he could, just wasn't quite enough.
Max Strus hit a couple threes, right?
Strus was pretty good. Jared Allen is good because he just kind of always is. But I mean, it was pretty much Mitchell just out there carrying the entirety of the offense and just looked gassed by the end of the game.
Yeah, I saw a couple of those Jimmy Butler memes. It's like it's like where he's leaning over the fence. Yeah. Donovan Mitchell with 48 points. And he said something about rebounding or something. I can't remember exactly what the meme was, but it was funny. Can't rebound a free throw against like a 6'2 guard, 6'3 guard. Mm-hmm. But it was pretty funny.
But now, I mean, we'll move on to Nuggets Thunder. This was our first scheduled Jokic nuke of the playoffs. We knew it was going to happen at some point. It came game 1. He had 42, 22, 6, a steal, and 2 blocks. I mean, you knew it was going to happen at some point. But I think the bigger one here is Aaron Gordon, the game-winning 3, just ridiculous. I don't know, man. I think we all kind of expected this the semifinals to kind of be a wash for the favorited teams, but who knows? I mean, they can keep getting it this close. I mean, it's been exciting basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the OKC, like the Thunder, like other guys other than Shea just weren't up to par in that game. I mean, especially J-Dub was pretty inefficient, couldn't really get anything going. And Chet was just outbodied, outplayed, out everything by Jokic, which, I mean, you kind of come to expect that, but makes you appreciate Ivica Zubac a lot more for how he guarded Jokic all first round.
Giving him clamps. I mean, Hartenstein couldn't do it. Chet was a little better, but it just wasn't quite enough. And then, yeah, like you said, like Williams was horrific. 25% from the field. Just wasn't enough. Shea was like fine. Caruso was out there. Caruso was probably their best player. Shout out to him. But yeah, it just wasn't quite enough. When you get a Jokic game like that and then Aaron Gordon is hitting shots, there's only so much you can do.
Off the raw speed, too.
Very true. Continues to be clutch. And then the final game, Knicks. They beat the Celtics. I mean, to me, I don't know how you guys feel about this series. This is like the Hitler versus Stalin memes in my mind. There is not like, if this series just ceased to exist and we just picked the 2 teams that are playing in the other series, I'd be like, that's perfectly fine. But Jason Tatum, that was horrific basketball to watch. It's just, it's so frustrating watching him play because he is so, like, he's so much physically larger than the players he's going against, and inevitably the possession is just like a step-back 3 that he bricks. You can drive to the rim. You got Jalen Brunson guarding you, and it's Karl Anthony Towns under the rim. You're probably going to score, and he just refuses to do it. 4 of 15 from 3 in that game. But guys that didn't miss their threes, Mikal Bridges, did you guys watch that shot? Did you realize that it was banked?
Yeah, no, I didn't until I saw that like eye in the sky cam kind of thing.
If it was like an inch to the left, we were getting the Paul George brick off the side of the backboard, but instead it like just barely caught enough glass to make it in. And then obviously the game-winning steal as well for Bridges. So I don't know, man. This was like, again, probably about as good as the first few games of this round we could have possibly expected. Will, you said it was the first time that all 4 road teams have won the games to open the semifinals. That's the first time in NBA history that that's ever happened. So, yeah, just incredibly exciting stuff. And then obviously a couple of games tonight. We got Thunder Nuggets and then Knicks Celtics. How are we feeling? Do we have any ideas, any predictions for how these 2 games will go?
I think the Thunder will bounce back, and I'll go with the upside. I think the Knicks will make it 2-0.
Okay. So we're thinking, okay, even the series one side, 2-0 the other one. I think I can get behind that. I feel like the odds of the Thunder having that poor of a shooting performance again are probably quite low. And then I don't know. I guess I'd rather see the Knicks win than the Celtics, so I can support that.
I think the Celtics take game 2, and yeah, I think both favorites win today. Supposedly Kristaps Porzingis is playing for the Celtics. That was a big loss for them in game 1 with him leaving the floor. I think a lot of those looks that the Knicks got in that first game come because Porzingis wasn't out there. They're able to get inside the paint. Pretty much anybody. I think he's a difference maker.
I'm with you, Will. I think it's going to be even 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
Celtics and Thunder.
Okay. I think in that case we can move on to the other sport that's in the playoffs right now. Maybe we can get to the NHL.
Sounds good. So I guess to start off the NHL, we can recap the series that were not done when we did our show last week. So the Maple Leafs, they would end up eliminating the Ottawa Senators in 6 games. That was a series that me and Taylor kind of had a little bit of doubt with the past history of the Leafs in the playoffs. But Leafs top guys was a different story this time as they showed up in Game 6 to close out the series. William Nylander had 2 goals and an assist. He almost didn't play that game. I don't know if you guys saw that the Leafs originally listed Alex Nylander, William's brother, who plays for the Leafs, but he's not a regular in the lineup. They listed him as being in the lineup and Willie as a scratch. And then the officials, I guess they're able to, if they notice like anything wrong on the game sheet, they can go to the team and say, hey, like, is this kind of what happened? Or is this like what's supposed to happen? And I guess they caught the error. The Leafs then changed it to be William Nylander in the lineup instead. Was a pretty big mistake that they caught because Willie did have 3 points in that game. As I said, Matthews had a goal, and the Mitch Marner fan club, they were happy as Marner had an assist in that game. Things did look a little scary for the Leafs in that game. The Sens came back from the Leafs 2-0 lead initially to tie it, but Max Pacioretty would score the series clinching goal for the Leafs a couple of minutes after the Sens had tied it. And then Nylander had got that empty net to close out the series. I think a pretty important series win for the Leafs there. What do you say, Taylor?
Yeah, I think so. I think for once not winning in Game 7 at the last minute is probably nice for them. They might get a couple days off now. They got a couple days off, whereas usually they're playing, right till the end every single time. But I think, yeah, you're right. All the players that have to play well played well. So, yeah.
Then another Canadian team advanced. The Edmonton Oilers eliminated the LA Kings in 6 games. Obviously, a big series win for the Oilers there. They started out the series down 0-2 and were able to end up winning 4 straight against the Kings. But I want to more focus on the Kings with this one. We'll talk a bit more about the Oilers as it relates to them defeating Vegas in Game 1 of that series. But for the Kings, I wrote down here, like, what do you even do after losing to the same team in the playoffs like 4 years in a row in the first round? Like, yeah, I don't know what the answer is there. They said that Jim Hiller's coming back as the head coach, which I don't think it's the right move, especially after games 3 and 4 of that series where the Kings had the lead in the third period and ended up losing that lead and losing the game. They said that Rob Blake has parted ways with the organization as GM. That seems to be, over the last couple of weeks, I've seen that terminology used a lot. Parted ways, like mutually agreed to part ways. I don't know if that's the new way of saying fired or not, or maybe there's just a lot of mutually agreeing to part ways, I guess. But I did want to point something out. I've never said this on the show before, but it's what I feel about sports and sports in general. I don't like when players that were franchise legends for a team decide to coach or manage a team or are hired. I shouldn't say decided. Like, it's the organization that hires them. And it's Luke Robitaille that's currently president of hockey ops of that organization. Rob Blake, who was just the GM. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of it. I think that it's a way for the organization to be, I guess, free of or get less scrutiny on those kinds of guys. I know the Oilers were bad for it there for a while, where they had a number of different former players that were working in the organization. I'm just not a fan of it. And I know that has worked out. Joe Sakic was the GM of the Colorado Avalanche when they won the Stanley Cup. Rod Brind'Amour has been a pretty good coach in Carolina. But I think that for fans, like, I guess Terrell here, sorry to pick on you. If Marshawn Lynch were the coach of the Seattle Seahawks, like, it would be natural. I wouldn't like to criticize him as much as, say, Pete Carroll if he were the coach.
I think, yeah, that would make sense. But I think inevitably, like, chances are they're going to have a mistake at some point, and almost that position of, like, I don't know, just, gratitude amongst the fans will come back to bite you, because then it's like, well, the only reason you're the coach is because you played for the franchise and people like you. Like when Jeff Saturday got hired as the coach of the Colts, that was immediately what people were saying. Like, why do you have this? Why did you even get this position? It's clearly just because you played in an organization and you're like a fan favorite. So I think it's like kind of a double-edged sword maybe, where it's like, yeah, you maybe get some, more good grace when you make mistakes, but then as they start to pile up, I think people will become more critical of you.
I have a thing here. I think in American sports, it's a lot different too. When you look at like soccer, for example, 75% of the managers, head coaches for soccer teams are players that played for that team. It happens more often than you guys think that a guy retires, and as he's retiring, he becomes a coach. Like a lot. Like guys that literally finished last year and then take a month off, and then by the time the spring hits when they start training again, they're the coach. So that doesn't happen in American sports, because a lot of the time those guys, take a couple years off or whatever, or maybe go into like a scouting role first and then slowly make their way up. European, like soccer especially, it's a lot more like popular and something that happens a lot more. And I feel like the fans are a lot more like that. Like they're like, oh yes, he's one of our best players of all time or whatever. This is what we want to happen. And I feel like they maybe don't flip on that kind of situation. Like they don't turn into the fans that want them to be fired as easily. Whereas if it's a coach that just kind of came into the organization just as a manager. So I feel like maybe the loyalty beyond on players is a lot different. Like you look at some of the most famous players to ever play in soccer, they might be managing a team, and no matter how good or bad their team is playing, it's never their fault.
Yeah.
So it either fixes itself or it doesn't. And 99% of the time, if it still isn't fixing itself out, you get the classic manager parted ways situation. So I don't know if it's firing, but a lot of the time you see it a lot more where they just step down. They're like, my job is so secure, but it's not going well. I'm not liking it, so I'm just gonna leave. Whereas you see a lot more firings happening with people that come in that weren't a part of the franchise before they started coaching, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you guys had both great points. For me, I look to the Detroit Red Wings, where Steve Yzerman's the GM. Now, Yzerman did a great job previously as the GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and maybe that's why fans are still patient with him. But he's done like almost a whole lot of nothing, I think, as the GM of the Detroit Red Wings. Like, they've improved, but they're not building like anything special, I don't think, in Detroit. They sign a lot of free agents that I think are past their best before date. They've become a goalie graveyard, it seems like. And it seems like fans, I think, are a little bit more hesitant to criticize Steve Yzerman because he was a great player that brought the Red Wings 3 Stanley Cups. Like, for me, I don't want to see Jack Eichel as the GM of the Vegas Golden Knights or William Karlsson or whoever else, because I think that they would get, like, yes, there would be people that would say that he got the job just because he was a former player, but there would also be a lot of people that would be hesitant to criticize Jack Eichel. They would be like, well, how can you say Jack Eichel doesn't know about hockey or doesn't know how to be a GM when he brought the team a Stanley Cup in 2023? So I think Terrell's right. Like, it goes both ways, but I'm just not a fan overall.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think it's the exact same thing when you get like analysts or commentators. They avoid all the criticism because it's the same thing. Like, how can you say this guy doesn't know the sport when they played it for 15 years or whatever?
I think knowing the sport versus playing the sport is a lot different.
Very different things. It happens very frequently. So yeah, it's not that surprising to me.
But I guess we could move on to the next series. Vegas, they eliminated the Wild in 6 games. Vegas's top players really showed up in those final 3 games of the series. They had started to show up, I guess, before last episode, but in Game 6, they were pivotal in that game and eliminating the Wild. Eichel had the second goal in that game. Mark Stone would end up having the game-winning goal as Vegas closed out the series against the Wild. I think the Golden Knights will need those performances as this series goes on against the Edmonton Oilers. They were good yesterday in that first period, but I guess we'll review that game a little bit later. The Stars, they eliminated the Avalanche in 7. That was one epic series, an epic Game 7 that will be remembered for ages. Mikko Rantanen had a hat trick in Game 7 to eliminate his former team. And for the Avalanche, this is a crushing loss. They had all the pieces that this season that I thought they could have gone on a pretty big run, as opposed to the past 2 seasons where they weren't really deep offensively and they didn't have good goaltending. They had a solid goalie this year in Mackenzie Blackwood. They had a deep forward core, even though certain players on that forward core, such as Brock Nelson, didn't show up. But for Dallas, I mean, there's no denying this is a huge series win for them and a huge confidence booster, I should say. They were missing Jason Robertson and Miro Heiskanen, and the depth that people have talked about with the Dallas Stars really showed up in this series, and it was on display. But Mikko Rantanen, who they traded for at the deadline, we're hoping he'd become a superstar, played decent towards the end of the regular season, was a ghost for the first 4 games of the series, but in the final 3 games was an absolute rock star for the Dallas Stars. Had 11 points over those final 3 games, including a hat trick in Game 7 to eliminate his former team. Taylor, I know you and I were talking about this the other day. What were your thoughts on that series in Game 7 between the Stars and Avalanche?
Yeah, I watched the end of the game, just turned it on, and it was really good. Again, it was one of those series which I wasn't paying attention to a whole lot, just because Canadians were still playing at one point. I think for $90 million, you're getting what you paid for so far with Rantanen in the last couple games. As long as he kind of carries it over, I think he's going to be worth every penny. But it was a really good end of the game for sure.
It certainly was. And then another memorable Game 7. We were watching this at our buddy Zach's wedding. It was the Jets eliminating the Blues. The Blues went up 2-0 in the first 4 shots in that first period. Connor Hellebuck had a rough start to the game. especially with all the doubters going into that game and how game 6, actually the first 6 games of that series had went for Hellebuck. Jets then cut the lead in half, but the Blues extended the lead to 3-1 at the end of the second. Then in the third, Vladislav Nemestikov scored with under 2 minutes left to make it a close game, and the Jets would end up tying it. Cole Perfetti out in front of the goal. What a heck of a play that was by him to get out his stick and tip that shot past Jordan Binnington to tie things up. Then Adam Lowry in double overtime would score the series-winning goal to end it for the Jets. It's a huge series win for the Jets, especially considering that Scheifele didn't play the last 2 games of the series, and Josh Morrissey was injured in Game 7. But Winnipeg, I don't think they'll be able to sustain this kind of play or win many games of that series against Dallas if Hellebuck continues to be the worst goalie in the playoffs so far. I think he'll be better in round 2. I don't know if he'll be Vezina Hellebuck, but I think he'll be better. I do think that Game 7 is going to at least be a confidence booster for him. Like, you have a rough series and you're still able to get that win. I think that is a bit of a confidence booster, knowing that your team in front of you has your back and is going to, I guess, bail you out. But his numbers, obviously, after round 1, they aren't great. Negative 10.1 goals saved above expected and .830 save percentage. But on the flip side of this series for the Blues, as heartbreaking as Game 7 was, I think they should consider this season as a win. Just getting into the playoffs, I think, was a surprise for St. Louis, and taking the President's Trophy winners to 7 games. Any thoughts from you guys, Taylor and Will?
No, I haven't been tapped in. I'm not tapped in like that.
Last game was good, but I wasn't really watching that series much either.
Yeah, that's fair. Now to get into the second round series, the Leafs, they won Game 1 against the Panthers on Monday 5-4. Toronto was in control of that game, I felt, from the start. William Nylander scores 33 seconds in. They leave the first period with a 3-1 lead. The Panthers would make it close as the game went on. They made it. The Leafs had a 4-1 lead. The Panthers would make it 4-3. The Leafs then made it 5-3 on a Matthew Nyes goal. He was my player to watch at the start of the series, so I was pretty happy that he scored in the series opener. Then Sam Bennett scores to make it 5-4. Who was a player that was talked about after that game. Leafs would close out that game with a 5-4 win. But as I referred to, Sam Bennett, he was the center of a lot of talk after the game as he injured Anthony Stolarz, who has started every game for the Leafs so far in these playoffs. Also a former Florida Panther as well. And Bennett did not get a penalty on that play or a suspension. I thought that Bennett should have been suspended. I really did. I think that he has a past of taking out players in the playoffs against the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I thought that he should have been disciplined for that play. Any thoughts from you guys? I don't know if you guys saw that play.
Tough in that kind of situation. I think the refs didn't see it, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough in a playoff situation that you don't know if he's just doing it by accident or whatnot. But
yeah. As for the next game, Carolina would win Game 1 from the Capitals as the Canes won 2-1 in overtime. Jacob Slavin with the OT winner in that game. It was a pretty good goalie duel between Logan Thompson and Frederik Andersen. Andersen was much less busy than Thompson, but still made some nice saves. Final shots in that game were 33-14 in favor of the Carolina Hurricanes. And Carolina would skate away with that victory. As I said, Thompson was great in that game. Things started to heat up towards the end of regulation there. There was a scrum towards the end of regulation. But, yeah, I think it'll be definitely a fun series to watch as it goes on. Then finally, last night, the Oilers, they won Game 1 against Vegas by a score of 4-2. Vegas started out the game hot. They were firing on all cylinders in the first 10 minutes. They grabbed a 2-0 lead, 2 goals from their captain, Mark Stone. And the Oilers would get 1 goal in the first period towards the end of the period to make it 2-1 going into the first intermission. But I thought that was as good of a period as you could have hoped for the Golden Knights. It really felt like that first period felt like game 1 of the 2023 series between the Oilers and Golden Knights, back and forth offensively, chances at both ends. That was how I thought the game was going to go. And in that first 10 minutes, the Golden Knights top line was badly outplaying the Oilers top line. On that second goal by the Golden Knights, it was Eichel forced the turnover, takes it down the other way, gets a pass to Stone, who ends up waiting out Corey Perry, who was kind of sliding there on the back check, puts one past Pickard for the 2-0 lead. And then that goal by the Oilers at the end of that period, you really seen that the Oilers it felt like they were kind of trying to avoid that matchup they had got a line change. They were able to get their top line out against, I believe it was Vegas's third line, and they end up striking for their first of the game. But the next 2 periods was a completely different story. The Oilers badly outplayed the Golden Knights, and they deserved that win. There's no doubt about it. The Golden Knights were limited to just 1 shot in the second period. Aiden Hill was peppered in that second period, was absolutely brilliant in that second frame, was the only reason why it wasn't a blowout and why the Golden Knights even had the lead after 2 periods. But in the second period, the Oilers would end up getting goals from Draisaitl, Hyman, and Connor Brown, who deked Shea Theodore out of his skates on that final goal. And then Calvin Pickard as well has become a pretty good story for the Edmonton Oilers. 5-0 to start these playoffs, and I don't think he's been unreal. Like, he hasn't been stealing games for Edmonton, but he's made the saves that he's needed to for them, and that's something that Stuart Skinner didn't do in round 1 against LA. So Pickard's providing some solid goaltending for the Oilers. I know Will and Taylor, you guys had said that you've seen the game. Well, I know you said that you've seen part of the game. What were your guys' thoughts on that game between Vegas and Edmonton?
I mean, all of my news comes from my grandpa, and I think as much of an Oilers fan as he is, I think he's an Oilers hater. He didn't have them beating the Kings. He said that they really have no chance versus Vegas, and that he was telling me that they haven't won a game 1 in like 2 years or something.
Yeah, it had been a while.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a big win to come out there on the road and come away with a win, especially against Vegas and how well they've been playing. And having the other guys put goals on the box score is nice. Not having to rely on Draisaitl and McDavid to score as much.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Basically, the support is huge. I think you're not going to win the cup with just them two, and we saw that last year. They almost won the cup because their supporting cast played a lot better.
Yeah.
So maybe if Pickard plays well, and that seems to be the big kind of asterisk, is if the goalie plays well. If he does or plays decent enough, then they score 5 goals a game. Basically, they're not having trouble scoring. So I think it's just a matter of keeping the pucks out of the net more than anything, which is a struggle, I think, for Edmonton more than some other teams in the playoffs, but we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess in the news in the NHL, draft lottery was this past week, and the Islanders kind of came out of nowhere and won the lottery. And Will, I know you had texted this, and I know you weren't the one saying that it was rigged, but you had just said you've seen people saying it was rigged. I have to say this, for anyone that's saying it's rigged, I don't know what more the NHL can do to make it seem not rigged. Like, they quite literally did the lottery on TV this time. Now, they revealed the results of the lottery in past years, but it was more so they would be like, and with the number 1 pick, it will be the Edmonton Oilers, or sorry, they kind of caught us stray there, but with all the number 1 picks they had. But instead, this time they actually did the draw, like with the ping pong balls on TV that had the numbers on them and all the winning combinations. So I don't know what else they could have done to make it seem not rigged. Maybe like have fans do it as well. Maybe just eliminate the lottery altogether to get people to stop thinking it's rigged. I'm not entirely sure what more the NHL needs to do. But as for the Islanders, they should take Matthew Schaefer with the first overall pick. He reminds me of a lot of the top defensemen in the NHL today. Guys like Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, Adam Fox that are great offensively, but are also good contributors defensively as well and don't look out of place in their own end. The one knock against Schaefer is that he's only played 17 games this season for the Erie Otters, had 22 points in those games. But in those games, he was fantastic. Like he's very mobile for a defenseman. And as I said, I think he's going to be a star in the NHL. Now, if the Islanders decide not to go defenseman and they instead want to forward, they should take Michael Nisa. Led the CHL this year with 134 points. Should have been on Team Canada, but that's a different story, I guess. And I've seen the discussion that the Islanders should take James Hagens, who at one point was the favorite to go first overall. I'd say he was the favorite from October to about December. But he hasn't dominated college like I think a first overall pick needs to. He hasn't dominated like Adam Fantilli did or Macklin Celebrini did last year. So he shouldn't go first overall. He'll still be a high pick. Like I think he could go anywhere from 3rd to 5th, but he should not go first overall. And Islanders fans want him because he was an Islanders fan growing up and he's from Long Island. But what's been driving me a little bit up the wall hasn't been because I think naturally that will happen. But what's been driving me up the wall is people in media fueling that discussion and that have been saying that the Islanders should take him because he's an Islanders fan. And I don't like that because I think for people that don't pay attention to prospects going into the draft, they see it as one high-end prospect versus a high-end prospect that's an Islanders fan. The truth is that you've got a guy in James Hagens who hasn't dominated college like a first overall pick should. He's not on the level of a Macklin Celebrini or Adam Fantilli, who went 3rd overall a couple of seasons ago, versus a guy who I think has a chance to be a top 5 defenseman. That's the way that it should be framed, not Islanders fan versus non-Islanders fan. Unless you guys have any thoughts on that. Last piece of news here. There was a Mammoth announcement out of Utah today. The Utah Mammoth, that's the new team in Utah, formerly the Utah Hockey Club. I've been seeing people driven up the wall by this name because it's not Mammoths. I'm not sure if Mammoth is already the plural of a singular mammoth. I was trying to find if it is or not, and I was finding mixed results. So I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, I think the jersey's fine. I think the logo's fine. I think it's pretty much like the same colors as they had before. So
Britannica Dictionary says mammoths.
Okay.
Is the plural.
Wrong. I don't care. Mammoth sounds better.
Oh, I'm not saying it sounds better, but
I'm just saying to me that sounds like saying mooses. It just doesn't seem right to me.
Meese.
And also, I don't know. People were complaining about the logo. I think that logo's sick, man.
I agree.
I think it's fine, yeah.
I kind of wish that they would have changed more about the away jerseys because they're pretty plain.
Just the exact same, except with the logo on the shoulder. I think they should have just put the logo in the middle for both jerseys.
Because I really like the logo, but I wish. And then a lot of the concept jerseys I had seen, they were kind of more retro looking, which always looks better. But I think the logo is cooler than the brand, like the rest of the branding overall.
Yeah. I think it's completely fine what they did. I don't have a problem with it. So, but unless you guys have any other final thoughts on the NHL,
nope.
Alrighty, we'll move on to the NFL. And Taylor, news out of Pittsburgh today.
Sad day, fellas. It's a sad day. Sucks when your favorite player is traded from a team. As much as it's fair, I guess he wanted to change the scenery and maybe thought that DK and him wouldn't work together. Although I thought it was kind of a perfect fit, but maybe he's just too much of a diva, which is also a very big possibility. But I'm not going to lie to you, the franchise that he's going to, it's not maybe the most suitable for divas either. And I was talking to one of my other friends today and saying that if we do a new bingo card for next year, I'm putting CeeDee Lamb versus George Pickens punching each other on the sideline as number one on my bingo list, because they just seem both like they could be egos that will not clash well. And I feel like Pickens is a guy that wants to be the first guy on the list potentially, and he's won't be. So I don't know how well it's going to work. Is that just me wishing that the trade didn't happen? Maybe, but yeah, I'm not super excited for how the season's going to go, especially losing our best offensive player that we've had in the past couple of years. But maybe it'll work out in the end. I don't know. We just don't we didn't draft a receiver or anything as a backup, so that's a bit annoying. I've seen countless rumors that Alan Lazard is going to come to the Steelers, which is I'd rather just leave the field open at that point. Why? I don't know. Why can't we just go and get a good receiver? What is this, Mike Williams at 46 years old and Alan Lazard, who hasn't been good in 7 years? But yeah, I mean, at this point, just give Roman Wilson a chance. He was on the IR all year last year. Just let him play. At least he's only 23. But yeah, a bit discouraged, especially with who knows what's going to happen with our quarterback situation. And now only having DK might be a bit rough. Only thing we have to hope for is our running game is really good, will be really good, but it might make for the games being really boring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that they were going to have to pay Pickens, and with the deal they just gave DK, there's no way they were going to it'd be so much to invest in that receiver room, and Pickens is probably going to want a payday. And by the time they were signing him, probably would be close to that DK deal as well. I think it sucks. I think overall it makes sense for Pittsburgh, but I think this is the time where it's you have to commit to a direction now. And the direction it seems like they're going in is that we're going to suck for the foreseeable future. Because right now, the receiver 2 in that room is Robert Woods. You're talking about old receivers. Robert Woods is he's up there, man.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
It's just, and I think the biggest thing was not drafting a receiver. I thought for sure that after this draft, they would keep DK and Pickens and just make it work.
Well, now it kind of pigeonholes us too, I find, because if this quarterback situation doesn't happen, that's what we're going to have to pick first next year. But then that means we're losing a chance on a receiver up high too, unless we trade up, which might end up screwing us over in the long term. So I really have no idea what we're going to do.
It's like a team that was already kind of middling, just floating around that being good point.
I would have rather it been where it's all on the receivers or on the quarterback's shoulders, and if the quarterback sucks, we just have to worry about one pick. But now we're going to have to worry about two, unless we somehow randomly go and pick somebody out of the blue, like what the Cowboys did. Which, I mean, maybe we could, but with our track record of not signing good receivers when they're available, being quite high besides Metcalf, I'm not super excited for the season. I'm not going to lie to you. But, hey, maybe we'll end up 9-8 like we're supposed to.
Does it give you any hope that every time the Steelers trade away or let a receiver walk, they immediately become not
bad?
Good? Yeah.
I mean, as much as I love Pickens, as you all know, he's one of the guys that would be kind of cool to see being good, as long as it's not against the Steelers. It would be cool to see him become, a Pro Bowler and maybe a very good receiver in this league, because I think he is a very good receiver and was just in a situation where he couldn't flourish as much as he was capable of. So it was always frustrating for me to watch him because, I could say George Pickens is as good as he is, but his stats, he didn't have 1,000 yards receiving last year. But I don't think that's short of his talent. I think that's short of just the way that he was used.
Mhm.
So maybe now that Dallas has two guys and a good quarterback, he might share the ball 50-50 with CD or 60-40 even, and he'll end up having a way better season. So for my sake for him, as much as he's a bit of a diva and does a lot of dumb stuff, it would be cool to see him have a good season, as much as I wish it would be for the Steelers.
I mean,
But who knows?
going to Dallas, I think this is like they're going to throw the ball 50 times a game. Their wide receiver one right now is Javonte Williams, or their running back one is Javonte Williams.
Mhm.
So it's like they built up the offensive line a bit more, picking Booker. Obviously now you got CD and Pickens. Ferguson's still a good tight end. Schoonmaker's fine as a backup. So it's like they're going to have to start throwing the ball. And I think he could put up crazy numbers out there, especially if CD's getting all the attention as the one. I'm kind of excited for the Cowboys offense.
Which is what I was hoping that would be happening at the Steelers, is one of the two is going to have a crazy season, where now it's going to be Robert Woods with a 1,500-yard receiving season. Like, no, because that's just not going to happen. So it would have been nice to pick another young receiver, but maybe it'll work out. It always seems to work out better than I think it's going to. So who knows? I wanted a receiver last year in the offseason after we got the quarterbacks, and we didn't, and we played okay. So who knows? I'm not super excited because, we have a bad quarterback room already. Having a bad receiver room now is meaning there's way more defensive time, and that means more injury prone, and that means just a dumpster fire at the end of the day, whereas it would be nice to be, efficient as much as possible, which we haven't been, even with Pickens. But this was our chance. So, yeah, a bit annoyed, but it's a biz. Maybe he plays there this year and doesn't re-sign or something. Who knows? But, I don't know.
But if we don't have any other thoughts from the Steelers, we can do some more positive NFL talk, because we talked about the draft last week, and Will, you were not present. But the New England Patriots have, I think, pretty widely been seen as one of the teams that had one of the best drafts, alongside the Seattle Seahawks, of course. But I'll let you, be hyped, be happy about what your team did.
That's what all the big dogs in NFL analysis have been saying. Patriots killed the draft, one of the best, if not the best drafts of all the teams. We hit all our needs. One of the blue chip players didn't fall to us at 4, but we got an absolute dog, a killer at left tackle, and Will Campbell, somebody who's gonna fight and die for Drake May. I would be lying if I told you I didn't tear up when I heard that. That hyped me up. And then beyond Will Campbell, I mean, focused so heavily on offense in the first couple rounds. Took a running back, Travion Henderson, who was a national champion at Ohio State. One of the better running backs, I'd say, this year. I think, was he 4th off the board or 3rd? Third or 4th off the board for running back. But I don't know. I'm happy with him. Kyle Williams has been declared the Steve Smith Jr. by Steve Smith Sr. I mean, that's a pretty big compliment coming from a guy as good as he was. Got a potentially starting center, potentially starting left guard, and Jared Wilson, highest ranked center on the board. And then for the defensive side, I mean, we just came away with steal after steal, guys that somehow fell to us. Braden Swinson and Josh Farmer, elite. We played some Patriots drafting, took a kicker, took a long snapper, but kind of just goes to show Vrabel is serious and Elliott Wolf cooked. playoff bound, boys.
I found it it was a great draft. A lot of the guys, well, I shouldn't say a lot. Two of the guys that you guys got were guys that I thought Seattle should take in Williams and Swinson. So when the Patriots got him, I was like, you know what? It's not the end of the day. At least Will can be happy. And at least they're not coming into the NFC. So that's fine. But I also thought Clayton and I talked about how Schneider got to take a running back in the draft as a treat. Patriots can take a couple weird special teamers as a treat too. They deserve it after their draft.
Yeah, I mean, it had to happen. Kind of had me excited just for the meme, but I think they can be useful players. And even we came away with some interesting characters in the free agency period. We got the next Cooper Kupp, I guess. This is a elite name, quirked up white boy Efton Chisholm III. Does it get better than that as far as white boy receiver names go? I don't think it does. Lan Larison, who was like a steer wrestler in college. Violent players, as Terrell Williams, our DC said, is who he wants. Violent players, and we got a freaking steer wrestler, boys.
That's hilarious. They're really going. The Patriot way was, picking lacrosse players, and does it get any? If you're looking for sports that are whiter than lacrosse, I think you got to look to rodeo, man. So they're keeping the process going.
I think
the guy better not. Oh, go ahead.
I think they're marketing towards Albertan football fans, and they got one. They got one in me.
That guy better not miss one tackle. That's all I gotta say.
True.
To tackle a bull, he should be able to tackle a human.
I think he's a running back, though, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, so you can.
I thought he was a defensive player.
No, yeah, he is a running back. My bad.
Oh, sorry, I got confused.
You're not getting blown up by a bull, but you're getting blown up by football players. Come on, man! Like every tackle broken. Come on.
He is the bull.
I'm just a bit sad that this might be the first year in a while that my team's the only one that's not going to make the playoffs out of this show. So
don't want to count chickens before they hatch here.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll see.
That's true. But drafting is one of the biggest parts, and I didn't think we did bad in the draft. In hindsight, before the trade today, but
you're going to go 9-8, and you're going to lose in the wild card round, and you're going to like it.
Hey, playoff bound. I can say it.
That Shadur Sanders wild card knockout. That's going to be a tough one at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys think about that, or if you talked about it, but I don't know if he'll start over Gabriel right away.
I think
out of the five quarterbacks that are just there, but
either of them starts over Flacco.
No,
true.
When any of them get cut?
No,
I know they have to cut somebody, but
could they not cut Deshaun Watson, or is it going to cost them like?
Well, they need some veteran leadership in that locker.
It's like $80 million in like dead cap or something like that. If they
can't do it yet, it's too expensive.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure that they're probably looking for every.
Though? Is it what you have to wait for his contract to be up, or is there a certain clause that when it gets passed, they can cut him and it won't worry about their salary?
I have no idea.
You said
it shouldn't be the entirety of his contract that they can't cut him, because that doesn't happen unless there's a clause, I guess. But
you said they're going to lose to Shadur Sanders. Just wait till it's Kenny Pickett that starts that game.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess if you need a quarterback, they could trade for Kenny Pickett.
I'll keep my Will Howard and just pray at that point.
He's suffered enough. We don't got to add more onto it, man.
Yeah, Will Howard's going to be good. I'm hoping for a Will Howard as Ben Roethlisberger Part 2.
You know what? Maybe it's not a Shadur Sanders wildcard knockout. Maybe it's a Will Howard as the Ohio State guy knocks the Cleveland Browns out of the playoffs. You never know. You never know.
Will's got a national champion, so did we. So maybe we'll get lucky. We got nothing to lose. He should start week 1, in my opinion, because what's the worst that's going to happen? Loses a couple games, okay. But yeah.
Well, you guys do have a less athletic, more accurate Drake May on your roster in Mason Rudolph. So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he did lead our team to the playoffs that one year when we were horrible. So he's got something there. He played a lot better than Kenny Pickett did, that's for sure. So either way, we either just give the chance to Will Howard, which is what I hope they do, but I have a feeling like they're going to probably start Rudolph for our first couple of weeks. And then we'll go 0-3, and then Will Howard will win 6 or 7 games in a row, and then have a little bit of an off streak, and then we'll finish 9-8. That's what's going to happen.
When you were talking about, former players, and then I brought up analysts, I was fighting for my life not to say Kurt Benkert. I didn't want to bring up an example, but he brings it on himself, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to MLB, or do we have anything else for NFL?
I mean, we don't have to talk about MLB. We can talk about 29 organizations and leave one off the board if you'd like. I wouldn't mind that either. And we're ending on such a high note that now everything's going to come crashing back down.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe we should we'll do the gauntlet at the end, I guess. Save
And bring it
for a
back.
high note. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess for the MLB, do we want to start with that one team, or do we want to talk about some of the other 29?
Let's start with the one team, and then other teams we can talk about. Maybe
I'm wearing their jersey today.
That's good. Unfortunately, it's a shameful article of clothing at this point in the year. I mean, what can you say about the Toronto Blue Jays? Just got blown out by the Angels. It was tied heading into the 8th, and then the Angels just started piling it on. On a current 3-game losing streak, it's just been abysmal. The offense has stunk, which is not surprising. We've talked about that many times. Now the pitching's starting to stink too. So at the very least, you don't feel like it's just we're one aspect of this team away from being good again. Both parts suck, so that's good. It's not like one part's letting the other one down. I'm sure inevitably they'll go on a bit of a run, get back to right around 500, and maybe they'll draw me back in. But at the moment, I have no desire to watch this team. When you're dropping games to the Angels, not a fun watch.
They did win the final game of their series against the Red Sox last week. They won 2 of 3 in that series. They've done well against the Red Sox this season for whatever reason.
Unfortunately, they have to play other teams as well.
Yeah, and one of those other teams, they lost 2 of 3 against the Cleveland Guardians. Some good news, though. Bo Bichette hit a home run.
I mean, was it a year? I mean, it was May of 2024. I don't know what the date was.
I had the exact date written down here,
Okay.
May 27th.
So we were getting close. We were 3 weeks out from a year.
You didn't hit a home run for a year? What?
Yeah. I said it on the show like 3 weeks ago, and I thought I had like gotten the stat wrong, so I corrected myself. But no, it was since May of 2024 he hasn't had a home run.
You should flip the bat around and hit with the other side.
Maybe. I mean, hey, you're open to anything.
Bat lefty at this point?
Get the torpedo going. Let's get everything, whatever we can get. Cork the bat, who cares? If you get caught, what's the worst that could happen? You're not hitting anyways. So,
Terrell, you mentioned the pitching. Max Scherzer and Eric Swanson, they've been moved to the 60-day injured list. The earliest Swanson could return is May 26th. Earliest Scherzer could return is May 29th. So, not good news for the pitching, not there either.
I mean, honestly, Scherzer there for vibes off the bench. I'm fine with that too. Him doing the CB Buckner coin flip in that game was hilarious. That was a bright spot of the past week, I guess. But yeah, tough to see that. Like I've said, if there's any guy that wants to come back as soon as possible, it's Max Scherzer. That guy's a nut job. I'm sure he wants nothing more than to be back on the mound. And Eric
His
Swanson,
2 colored eyes freak me out.
he is a scary looking individual.
Yeah.
And apparently, yeah, he's a bit of a strange character, but yeah, I really like him. So,
but for the rest of the MLB, Terrell, unless you want to talk any more about the Blue Jays.
Not overly. I mean, we did get to see a homer from Vlad, so that was nice. Santander's hit a few. Hit one against Boston. Like I said, I think was it the last time that Varsho came back, or is that after our last episode?
It was the last time, yeah. We had
So Varsho's back, and he was playing quite well against the Red Sox as well.
The catch was pretty crazy.
It's going to be up there for catch of the year. I don't think it's going to be like as insane as whatever diving catch I'm sure is going to be the one that wins it, but the level of difficulty in that is like about as high as it could possibly be. Losing the ball for a full second and a half is just ridiculous.
Close to that one in like the 80s or 90s where the guy caught it barehanded. It's kind of like that vibe. I can't remember who that was. There's a guy that caught one barehanded. It might have been the playoffs. I don't remember.
Yeah,
left fielder, I think.
Talking about running to the warning track, caught it over.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember who that was. But yeah, it was just ridiculous. And you know what? I will say I've never seen a catch like that before in my life. So seen lots of diving catches made by the Toronto Blue Jays. Never seen that one before. So shout out Dalton Varsho for that.
But I guess for the rest of the league, the no city name Athletics are currently second in the AL West behind the Seattle Mariners, who we talked about last week on the show. They've been having a good season. They beat the Athletics today 6-5, but the Athletics, they've been pretty surprising this season. They've been getting some good hitting from Tyler Soderstrom, Jacob Wilson as well. Terrell, have you been keeping track of the no-name Athletics and how their season's been going?
They are one of the few teams in the MLB where I'm keeping in touch with them just because I think that they're an interesting built one. Like the pitching it's not going to be the best, but Soderstrom's been so much fun. He's kind of cooled off a bit after his ridiculous start to the year. But it's like for the first time in forever, it feels like the Athletics have a direction, and it sucks that it came as soon as they left Oakland. But at the same time, it's nice to have, more good teams out there, and hopefully this is the A's actually turning around and becoming that. But I mean, the AL West is not necessarily the most difficult division this year, but them even being close to the top of it is a big turnaround from where they've been for the past few years.
Definitely. Team that's had a turnaround in a bad way this year, the Baltimore Orioles. They've struggled this season. They're now 13-21. It's a bit surprising.
I mean, I think that's probably an understatement. If anything, the entirety of the AL East has been rather disappointing compared to expectations. But I think Baltimore's probably the most disappointing of the bunch. Every other team, I think you could have arguments as to why they were going to not be the best. Baltimore, I think, has kind of outdone everyone's expectations in that sense. The offense just hasn't performed like you'd want it to. And then the problem that everyone knew was going to be an issue is that the pitching, and then the pitching has been as bad as advertised. So in their last game, they gave up 9 runs to the Twins. In the game before that, they gave up 11 to the Royals, who before that had been dead last in baseball in home runs. But I think they hit 7 home runs in that game and have since surpassed now the last team, the Toronto Blue Jays. So congratulations to the Kansas City Royals. You're no longer last. But when you're giving up that many runs to an offense that has been that bad throughout the season, one of, if not the worst in the entirety of the league, tough luck for Baltimore. Yeah.
It's crazy, too, that the division that's been the strongest in the American League has been the Central.
I mean, I think when I was doing my predictions at the start of the year, I thought it was going to be a bit of just a bloodbath. I didn't know who would necessarily come out on top, but all the teams I thought were pretty evenly matched. And as it turns out, they're not evenly matched because they all suck or they're all mid. They're even matched because for the most part, they're pretty good. Obviously, the White Sox are the odd man out there, unfortunately for them. Anytime you say the AL Central's good, you kind of have to put the asterisk up there that does not include the White Sox. But outside of them, yeah, this division's been fantastic. And yeah, I mean, all the teams in there have been fun to watch. I'm kind of hoping Kansas City can continue this momentum and remain good because I had a lot of faith in them coming into the season. This offense has just been pretty horrendous. But despite that, Bobby Witt's still been performing very well. It's just kind of everyone else outside of him. Jack Caglione, their prospect, has been hitting very well in AAA. Their outfield right now is horrific at hitting the baseball. He should come up as soon as possible and maybe give them a bit of a boost in that offense. But yeah, I don't know. AL Central looking better than advertised.
Certainly is. Was there anything else you want to touch on for the MLB?
I don't think so. The Dodgers got walked off last night by the Marlins. That was pretty exciting. And outside of that, I mean, the Giants have been incredible to start the year. I've already talked about the NL West a lot. Unfortunately, if you're a team in that division, you kind of just have to suffer through it. But Giants have been great. And the Braves are continuing to kind of start to claw back to where we thought they would be on a 3-game win streak. So, yeah, overall, a lot of solid news from a lot of teams in the MLB. Hopefully, Toronto can become one of them in the near future.
Alrighty. I think that does it then for today's episode. A little bit of a shorter episode, but we've had some marathons the past couple weeks, so it's a nice one to just be quick, I guess, for this episode. But before we finish off here, make sure you follow us on social media. Instagram at the Armchair Athletes, TikTok at Armchair Athletes, Twitter at Chair Athletes. Terrell already let you know what's going on the Twitter earlier in the episode. And then YouTube at the Armchair Athletes 196. 196. That's the amount of matches that I'm going to try and rate over the next week. So I guess go follow the drop kicked at Armchair Athletes. Yeah. Alrighty. But yeah, that does it for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.